Welcome back to LETV. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so you don't miss out on any upcoming content. Let's do this. Right guys, so we're here again and I'm here in the LETV studio on the outskirts of Edinburgh, Dalkeith area, and I'm here with Recovery Entertainment Events Coordinator Donna Boyd.
Hi.
Cheers for coming on.
Cheers. You got it right.
Aye, I know, eh? It's always introducing folk. I'm like, oh, get that in my head. It's a bit of a tongue twister. But, aye, quality. Well, cheers for coming on again, like, I appreciate you coming through, but you were in Edinburgh anyway.
I was in Edinburgh anyway. A few days annual leave.
Just socially?
Just chilling. I like coming through here when I'm off work. It's just different vibe for Glasgow.
Aye, we're like that going to Glasgow, eh? It's like a wee holiday, eh? Aye. Going in, I like even going seeing Steg and Govan and that, just going somewhere different,
That's it.
And sound. You can give El Green a wee plug. You're going to go and check his.
I am. El's chicken scoops, a year old, so he's down in Leith. Going to go down there and stuff my face.
It's really popular, eh? I've still not had one, but I know all about it, eh? So I need to get down and have one.
Anytime I'm through and he's doing it, it's nice to pop in and get one because they're lovely.
Aye, I've not seen El Green in ages or Jinx or all of that, but
The future guest for you.
Definitely, yeah. I'll definitely be wanting to hit up Jinx. I'm sure he'll be up for it. So aye, cool. Well, we'll just crack on. The first part of the interview is like the same. I've got a sort of template for all the guests to keep a sort of pattern going. Mm-hmm. So the first part's all about like where you're from, where you grew up, what was life like as a kid, and I sort of where you grew up and where you were born, where you're from, and then sort of from 10 years into your teens, what you were like as a kid, what you were into and stuff. So probably starting off like where you're from, where you grew up.
So I was born in Glasgow, but my mum and dad moved out of Glasgow to kind of get away from the city and have a better kind of life away from the city. Because my dad had been involved in some stuff. He was a bit of a jack lad in his day, do you know what I mean? And they wanted to get away, so they moved into the country. I was an only child, grew up in the country, and it was a great childhood. I was just dead creative, music, dancing. I was into all sorts. Aye,
like going to wee raves and stuff as you got older and.
No. Well, I was actually a ballet dancer.
All right, so
in my younger years, I was young. I was a ballet dancer. But
you still pull off some moves?
No, not at all.
Could get a video on after.
No, definitely not. Nobody needs to see that. At all. So it was like I was right into art and stuff like that. But I had quite a lot of trauma.
So you were born in Glasgow. Sorry,
yeah.
Up to what age did you move away from Glasgow?
Really early. So I was like 4 or 5.
When
my mum moved. My mum and dad moved in there.
And you just moved out of the city, just on the outskirts sort of thing.
No, down to Stranraer. So it's like where you get the ferry to Ireland.
All right.
Down there.
Cool.
So my dad got a job in a farm, and lost his job for growing something that he shouldn't have been growing.
Wow.
And we had to move, and we moved to another kind of rural bit, a wee cottage, and my ma started going out to work. So it was like my dad was the kind of person at home and who walked me down to the school bus and stuff like that.
Aye, that's good though. You had your mum and dad both there though, eh? Or your childhood and that.
Yeah.
Aye, your dad was a bit of character, but.
Yes.
Cool. What to go in? Probably as you got a bit older, this is where my brain goes numb for a minute. So what sort of music were you into as you were sort of, say, coming up into your early, like 12 years old, turning a teen?
I was brought up with like Leonard Cohen, Beatles, Dylan, Bowie. I was brought up with all that at home. But as a teenager, I kind of started getting into more guilty secret as Madonna. Madonna was like, because she was like a strong female character, do you know what I mean? And then as I started getting into later teens, it was happy hardcore kind of stuff and all that. And then the rave scene came in.
I bought a couple of the Hardcore Heaven tapes and that. You remember them? Hardcore Heaven, and one of my favourites was Pretty Green Eyes. Remember that?
Yeah.
Classics.
Yeah.
So I suppose we can go sort of into like what sort of fashions you were into and stuff like that. It's getting an idea like you as a kid and things you were interested in. And
So I was quite into Boy George and all that too, weirdly enough. So it was always different, always something kind of different. And I always kind of felt different as well, being, because like Stranraer was a wee town, I don't know what it's like here, but Stranraer was a wee town, so anybody that was outside of that was kind of noticeable, do you know what I mean?
Aye,
and
aye.
then because of like things like my dad was in the paper for what he was in for and stuff like that, it was like, you kind of stood out, you were different, and people kind of knew that, do you know what I mean? And it was that small town mentality kind of thing as well, down there. So, but because of other stuff that had kind of started going on in my life, I kind of started trying to fit in more, so it was, and I became dead angry because of stuff that had happened, and I became quite violent and stuff too.
like frustrated and that and stuff.
Aye, just because you were holding into secrets and stuff like that, and it just started coming out in other ways and started acting out, and started skiving school and fighting quite a lot. And
Without being, when were you born? What year? Is that rude?
1975.
75,
So
aye.
yeah, I'm 46 now.
There you go, I'm just turned 40, 82. So in 75, so I mean by 85 you were 10-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
So like sorry, 87, 88 you were coming into your teens, Aye, cool. That's a mad time, I was just that wee bit younger, So you saw more of the 80s. Aye.
I'm 80s child.
I always say I saw more of the 90s really, being born in 82.
I didn't see much of the 90s at all. The 90s were quite a haze to me.
aye, that was a pretty wild time for you.
Yeah.
Aye. Which led you on to the stuff you do now.
Aye. So like after the kind of rave scene, like the criminal justice bill came in, and that kind of shut down the illegal raves and stuff like that folk were having. And like we used to go up to like the Metro and the Piv and that in there quite a lot, but as the kind of the scene kind of changed, and like for come downs and Sundays, folk would take eggs to Mazepam, and they get took off the market. So then heroin get introduced to that kind of scene, and people started using that. So, but when I found that took everything else away. It took all the emotional pain that I felt away, and that became then a drug that I lost my life to, basically. But like physically losing my life, but it was like, so my life for 18, 19 was heroin, prescriptions, prisons, being under section in mental hospitals, and that was how my life kind of went for like 20 years.
Aye.
20 years.
How long have you been sort of clean and recovering and stuff?
Just over 5 years. So like 5 years at Christmas 5 years ago was like my first day without any substances.
You can Steg quite well,
Aye, so when I moved back up to Glasgow, about 2004 or 5, and a drug worker I had, because they kind of, this one kind of sat with you and asked you what you were into and stuff, and he tried to hook us up with stuff that I was into, like music and stuff like that, and they introduced us to Sonny Govan, where Steg worked, and Steg used to give us CDs. I've still got a UV Beats one that he gave us, so it's like all the power cut
He's
stuff.
good at that, he hands out the CDs.
So it was like MOG, Black and White, the power cut, Clyde Built and stuff, like yourself.
Kim Wilson.
And that was like, so it was like, I was still using substances, I was still quite mad with it, but I used to be able to go in there and just chill and talk to folk, and
seeing a sort of different angle of life.
Aye. And just seeing, like, speaking to people and seeing that, like, people had grew up in schemes with adversity and stuff like that, but they'd use music to channel that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, as an interest, not to get involved in what was going on in the scheme.
Some of them had been lucky enough that to happen to them early enough.
Yeah.
And you didn't have that.
I didn't have that, because Stranraer was a wee town and there was nothing else happening, basically. Do you know what I mean? Aye.
It's a shame that it took so long, and now you're totally switched on. And
well, it still took a wee while, to be fair.
Now you're sitting here though, waiting for me while I'm having a fag. Aye. So were you in any sports or anything when you're in your life?
I'm not a very physical person. So you said you were going to pick your phone up. I'll
put
put mine on silent because I know this.
I'm going to switch mine off right now. Come on, switch off. There we go. I says, I'll switch the phone off, I'll set the camera up, and I always forget something. Aye, so no really into sports or that.
Nah, no into anything physical. I'm no a big. I used to enjoy just walking and stuff. No, like when I used to go out and I'd walk home after a club or something on a Saturday night, which was like 3-4 mile in the country along the beach and stuff like that. So walking and being out in nature was always nice, but never like into going to the gym or
training or that. Aye.
I did try it just a wee while ago, but I didn't stick it.
Aye. I've went through wee phases. And when I was younger, my parents put me through wee things. I joined a running club when I was a kid and that, but I suppose you do a lot of these things when your parents just put you through it, And then as I got older, I did a bit of boxing and that, but I've never really dedicated myself to anything like that. I think music and that was way more. I'd rather have sat working on music than go to the gym. But aye. How are we doing? What else? Have you got anything from sort of growing up you want to sort of bring up that comes to mind? Anything? Or what attracted you to going back to Glasgow or anything like that?
I came back to Glasgow because of domestic violence, basically. My Wayne's dad was quite violent, and we had kind of fell out in Glasgow. I don't know what kind of drew us back to Glasgow, but I ended up back in there. But I was still quite chaotic for years and years now. Like,
you've been through quite a lot then, eh?
Yeah,
stuff when you were younger.
It was early childhood trauma.
Was he into drugs as well at the time?
It was more a drinker, so like always kind of blaming what had happened for the reason why I was how I was. So like being stuck in that, and like in recovery you hear different words like self-pity and self-centeredness and just that whole way of thinking and dead negative, and that's what kind of kept me using for years, like to mask that. Like when I was in prison, I came off prescription stuff with every intent of not going back to it, but just knowing how to live without substances.
When you were in prison?
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
When were you in? Just the once, or you been in?
I'd been in a few times, but the last time was I got out in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So
is it just from basically like reckless behaviour, basically due to drugs and that?
The last time was for getting caught for supplying stuff. And that was myself.
And it was probably a case of just supplying to
just
make
to
some
feed your
to feed
stuff.
your own. It's common in all drugs basically, and weed and everything. Eh?
Well, that's what it was. It was weed and Valium.
Aye.
It's called street Valium now, so it's like, but they're dead dangerous to, do you know what I mean? So it's like, so that was like 2011. My son was 11 at the time, and he was in the care of my mum and my dad, and I get imprisoned, and when I get out, I'd got clean in there. I came off methadone and stuff in there, and I came out and I had said that I was going to stay clean, but within months was back like in the same kind of place.
Nightmare,
again.
And you probably think about that a lot, because you'd done a lot of work to get clean, and you could still continue getting wasted in jail if you wanted to.
Aye.
Some people say, I've not been there. I've had pals. I've been visiting a lot of times to pals that have been in, and it's easier. They say it's easier than it is out of jail. If you want something. And I was going to lead on to something else there. I take it like your sentence was not too long, like a year or something.
It was 18 months, so you done 9, you done half of that.
Aye. So still long enough to sit in a cell and that, and good. Yeah. But you hear about people going for like 8 years and stuff, and that is a real.
It's.
So your wee boy was 11 and he was like coming up 13 or something when you came out.
No, 8. Sorry, he was 9 when I went in, and he was 11.
11 when you came out. Aye. Didn't miss too much of him though, eh? I mean,
no, but
did they come?
You seen how it affected him, for being like a wee 9-year-old to like being a totally different 11-year-old.
Aye. A lot of change in that age for kids, eh? Well, you just met my wee girl. She's going to be 9 soon, eh? So she's not even 9 yet. Yeah. But I can imagine when she's 11, she'll be way different, eh? She's hard work already. She wanted to join us on the podcast. Can I come? She says, I'll sit on the couch and just watch. You can tape my mouth up. She knows what I think. What else? Sort of just basing on on you as a kid, really. I mean, do you drive or that?
No.
No, so
No.
you were never into motors or that. You weren't like interested in that sort of stuff. Or...
No, I mean I like driving, just haven't got a license for it.
Aye, so you did a bit of driving.
Yeah, I lost my license for driving under the influence.
Aye, a few years ago, like.
A long time ago.
Aye, you just never. Do you have to reset your test and all that? Aye. I recently, not as bad, but I got flashed for speeding, and I got off with. I got points on my. I'd never had points. I kept my license dead clean. Got points on my license and a fine and that, and then they said if you go and do this Zoom course, you don't get the points or the fine, and you just take part in the course, and you don't get the punishment, and you had to pay £40 for the course, so you paid £40 instead of £100 or something pound fine, and you had no points, and I thought,
Well.
aye, it was like on the fine it gave you the option you could do this thing. I thought, I'll do that, but it was a bit weird, like sitting, and everybody was like, we were all like, I felt like criminals, everybody's face on the Zoom thing, and we're all like, we've all been bad. But so I was lucky I never got the actual points,
Yeah.
and also they'd said you'll only get this offered once,
So if you get caught again, it's
you never get offered again in 5 or 10 years for the next. So if you go and do it again next year, you're not getting this offer. And I don't know what else to go into really. As a kid, it's quite often quite hard to fill this section. The rest of the sections fill out quite easy. It's coming up with. I need to kind of know more about you to ask you questions. Do you have anything?
So like.
Putting you on the spot,
I know. It's just I try no. Like I've been interviewed a couple of times, and it's like recently it was on, and it's like just talking about that trauma, and you don't want to become that anymore. Do you know what I mean? So it's like for years and years, like every time I seen a psychiatrist or a doctor, I had to go through that story or stuff. Do you know what I mean? So like, but it was like for 8 years old, I was sexually abused by a family member, and then. So I had that, and then
that's a massive part of what's pushed you in the direction you went in.
That was why when I learned that substances took all that away, that they then became what I chased after for years and years, and no knowing that that's what it was, and then you get stuck in a cycle of that, and then what you do to get drugs or while you're on drugs then keeps you stuck in that loop. Do you know what I mean?
Funding the drugs.
Shoplifting to fund drugs.
And then selling a wee bit again and just getting caught for that.
Just being stuck in that cycle for years and years and years. And there was other stuff. I lost a cousin that was killed in front of me, and just knowing that was all the stuff, and
hard to talk about, no stuff you enjoy remembering, really, but
but it's like
accepting it as well as part of it.
And getting to a place now where like I've started like healing for that and changing how I feel and think about it. Like as I said before, it was like I blamed that for years and years and years for why I used it as an excuse to use. Like if you had it as bad as, and I know there's people out there that have been through similar or worse, and they don't turn, like BA's got a brilliant tune about it, about pick your poison. Like people go through stuff and don't use, but then some of us like do. I mean, and as I say, like
you're a very positive person now, though. Like you seem very. Probably.
Totally.
I mean, you're still 5 years in recovery.
5 years.
So you're still. It's a hard fight.
Baby.
Constant.
Still a baby.
Aye. And but I was saying to my missus, Donna's coming up, blah blah blah. I've got her on Facebook, and like I've never met you before, and normally it's just wee text writings, but I'm going, she's really nice. She's like a really friendly person, and she's blah blah blah. And I'm going, I've never met her, like, but I can just tell. And then I was laughing because I was saying, she's always like supported anything I post up, like all my music and stuff. And I was like, in fact, if I posted up a sandwich, she'd like it. Nice sandwich.
Food, yes.
I like your dinner. It looks good tonight. Sharing it. Riddler's just made his dinner. Well, keep it a wee a couple of wee minutes we could still spend on this one. Just if there's anything else really, but we could end the first part because we've not much else to really hit on, have we?
No.
I mean, I was thinking now, did you have a lot of pals when you were a kid? Like, say, when you were staying out of town in Stranraer, was it?
No, Stranraer, no.
Stranraer,
Like I had one kind of close friend, close by, but after that, I had my school pals and stuff. But it's like I stayed like in between Stranraer and Cairnryan, so like you were a mile odd in either direction to get anywhere.
To
Do you know
the communities.
what I mean?
Aye.
So it was like.
And moving around a lot too. Well, not a lot, but you moved for Glasgow to one sort of village area and then to another one, and then back to Glasgow later again. So if you move a lot, you tend to move away from your pals to new pals, and there we go. I done a lot of moving about schools. I mean, people would say I was a total problem child when I was a kid, but I think I had good parents, and they guided me well to keep it. A lot of my pals end up. That's what I mean. A lot of them end up in jail and stuff, and I was in the cells a lot and stuff like that, and got close to the things, but I always seemed to sort of know better. There's something that just taught me well, and but I kept getting really close to, like, parents threatening to chuck me out because like I was lifted again for something, and luckily I just would never get charged. I'd never. A lot of it was under 16 as well, and then so. I wasn't an angel myself, so school was terrible. I went to about 3 or 4 different schools. So then I kind of relate to, you had pals like that, and then they didn't want me in the school anymore. They were like, we can't handle them. They put me in another school, and it was. So I ended up starting to bump into pals from the different schools I went to, and DJ Fusion, Ralph Peterson. He DJs in like Past the Vibes, and he was our DJ as well when we were doing live shows and stuff, and bumped into him in a club one night. I went to primary school with him at one of the schools I went to, and it was just like, wow, and then we ended up, you want a DJ for us? It was like somebody I knew when I was 7 years old or something, pops back up when I'm 27 or something. Well, I think we can end part 1. I think we've covered a bit about your childhood, and you've opened up about like what you've had to go through in that, and it must be difficult talking about all that as well, and still getting used to it all. But you seem amazing now, everybody speaks good of you, like everyone I've told secretly I was interviewing you, folk I can trust, they're all like, oh, that'll be great. So no pressure, but they're all like well, sound, we'll end that part, and there's going to be a new track come up on the screen, picked by Donna from an Unsigned artist. Not sure right now, but she's going to sort me out, and all details will be on the screen, and we'll catch you soon.
Marks we leave behind for try to heal the wounds of time. Scars, a memory of energy you couldn't hold inside. Scars, reminder of the past in your skin and in your mind. Or just a sign that you've been hurt and you had to draw a line. Scars, attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. Attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. Attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. Wet and I've got scars, so pay attention. Dawning on the edge, you want to take a run and jump. All the emotions building up, now I feel like I've just been cut. Tears are streaming through my eyes, I can hardly even see, as I'm going back and forth with the voices in my head, saying come on bro, you got this, you just need to believe. The other one saying no, you'd be better off dead. It's like a never ending conversation, thoughts are getting deep. Try to pull myself together but I can't find any peace, cause the hearts you leave behind for try to heal the wounds of time. Scars, a memory of energy you couldn't hold inside. Scars, reminder of the past in your skin and in your mind. Or just a sign that you've been hurt and you had to draw a line. Scars, attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. Attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. Attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. And I've got scars, pay attention. I vandalise myself, I'm no scared to end up scarred. I won't verbalise emotion, my veins shattered to shards. Feeling fully fit and fixed, healing up is hard, but I'm well my way, I vandalise myself, I'm no scared to end up scarred. I can't wait to cause commotion, my pain's rotting the stars. Feeling fully fit and fixed, healing up was hard, but I'm well my way, Scared to greet, my eyes could flood an empty street. They don't hear us when I talk, so I don't listen when they speak. Mace, troops are full of air, and all the rest are full of grade. Another day is just another day closer to where I'll date. And all your words are cutting deep, I bet his blade will cut his deeper. If the blood drains through my head, I think I'll make myself a bleeder. Cause all the suffering endured was my only way to escape. So I just suffocate your love with all my self-inflicted hate. Cause the heart to leave behind for try to heal the wounds of time. Scars, a memory, a energy you couldn't hold inside. Scars, reminder of the past in your skin and in your mind. Or just a sign that you've been hurt and you had to draw a line. Scars, attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. Attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. Attention seeking seeker, seeking the world's attention. And I've got scars, pay attention. I vandalise myself, I'm no scared to end up scarred. I won't verbalise emotion, my veins shattered to shards. Feeling fully fit and fixed, healing up is hard. But I'm aware my way, I'm aware my. I vandalise myself, I'm no scared to end up scarred. I can't wait to cause commotion, my pain's rotting the stars. Feeling fully fit and fixed, healing up is hard. But I'm aware my way, I'm aware my.
Right, perfect. So that's us back, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the tunes, and we're on to part 2, which talks about like what the person I'm interviewing got them into what they do, which is like your events you run for recovery, helping other people as well. Really, that's what you're starting to do, even though you're still working on yourself, but you're taking time to help other folk. You're not just. That's quite mad, that you're still working on yourself, but you're. I suppose it's keeping you busy, hey.
Aye. So when I get into recovery, I was like 40, so I was introduced to the concept and the idea of recovery and different recovery models when I was 39. By the time I went into rehab, I was 40. And then it's like 12-step recovery a day, so if different fellowships, but anonymous fellowships, 12-step principal fellowships. So there's like a set of steps, and one of them is being a service, do you know what I mean, like giving away what you've got, because it's like it's free to go to a fellowship, so it's like self-help, mutual aid groups, do you know what I mean? That was, and by the time I get introduced to that, because I'd never heard of it, obviously it's anonymous now, but they're not a secret, but it was like I'd never heard of them, and when I was introduced to them, I had tried everything else. So I'd tried different harm reduction, I had been in and out of prison and came out clean and went back to using.
Did you ever do like self-harm and stuff like
aye, because you're just, that was like a time when I was in that much emotional pain that the physical pain took it away. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, so I
you've been through a lot. You were doing anything really to try and get away from your thoughts.
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
And so like being introduced to 12 steps and changing how I thought about that stuff. It's like, so it was like, as I said, I used to blame all that for why I was the way I was, but then taking kind of responsibility for healing for that. Is kind of how I can best describe it. No, it's like what happened wasn't great, shouldn't have happened. But while I'm blaming it, I'm in that victim mode. So like, while I'm feeling sorry for myself and blaming that, I'm in this way of thinking that's just keeping me in it, if you know what I mean. And changing how you think about that and saying, right, but I'm not going to let that, because it's like, while you're like that, you're still letting whatever happened to you control your life. You're not in control of your life, so it's like, you know what I mean? And learning that's why I used drugs, was to deal with all that stuff. And then starting to unpick it all and look at it and look at the behaviours that came for that, whether it being dishonest and stuff like that, and just going through the process. And it's an ongoing process, you know what I mean? See that it's like it's 5 year in, and like just last week I was like, I did something with Steg, and it's like I'm in a room full of schoolway and stain stuff, and it's like realising that, like looking at your own inner child, because you're faced in this big room with all these wains performing, and thinking
back.
that I was that age when this started happening, and look
You're
at them.
catching
do you know
them
what I mean?
before it can happen.
Do you know, it's like, and just like connecting with that part of yourself again, and so it's like it's ongoing.
So you go to some schools and that, you do some...
No, I don't. No, it was Steg had been doing stuff with the Glasgow Barns, so it was like the Govan Music Festival.
Oh, right.
I went and did DJ workshops, just because my whole recovery's been just trying new things, do you know what I mean? For picking up the camera and going out and going to hip hop gigs, to even what I do now is all just been trying new stuff and sticking at whatever you enjoy, sticking whatever gives you that wee spark, you know, like your podcast and your music, whatever gives you that wee purpose and that you enjoy, that isn't a substance.
Simple stuff, that can make you feel happy, things you enjoy. And I was just thinking while you were chatting, is there anybody like through your recovery in the last sort of 5 years that you feel like has really been like, sort of, quite often someone has somebody that's really helped them a lot? Is there somebody out there that you owe?
So in a fellowship you get a sponsor, which is just somebody that's went through the 12 steps. It's, you know what I mean,
they've been through it,
and they help guide you through it and help you start to live your life that way, which has been principled.
That's good, and they're there for you to phone whenever you need and everything.
Aye. So like obviously my sponsor, she's an amazing woman. People like Steg's been like in my life since I moved back to Glasgow and been there, and it was through him that I was introduced to local Scottish hip hop and people rapping in Scottish.
And I take it you never knew about it before, no, say 5 years ago then?
No, that was 2005.
All right,
6.
aye.
Around about then.
So, aye.
When I first got introduced to Sonny Govan.
You were still, you weren't in recovery when you first started.
That's it.
And what did you think when you first started hearing Scottish rappers?
I thought it was brilliant. I was like, how does other people not know about this?
Aye.
And that's how it all became a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, see when like you hear schemes and things like that, and it's no like American rappers talking about American things that you don't really, you kind of know about if you've seen it on the telly, but you can't actually identify with. And then hearing people rapping about stuff that you can actually identify with, and it's just like, wow. A lot of the American stuff, you basically try to relate to it, but you almost like translate it into your world. Which is what Mog's great at, for like changing it into like local
Mog's
scheme
amazing,
stuff. Do you know what I mean? And that was, no, it's like, that was what when I was in Stranraer and I ran about with people and we all kind of used together, but when I moved to Glasgow I was very isolated using, so it was just me in the house using, because I didn't like to share my drugs. Do you know what I mean? But that was like the music that Steg was getting me, and then for there like searching YouTube, chilling out music too, you could sit and listen to the CDs and just having that connection with something. Do you know what I mean? Because I wasn't connecting with people, so it was just like, it was a connection with the music that I had, and that's what I fell in love with. Who jumped out at you the most then? Mog. I was going to say I think that he has that effect on a lot of folk. He's such a like normal guy, like laid back, chilled out, not full of himself at all. The opposite. Like and he's basically regarded as the best rapper to come out of Scotland. You know, like along with other people that are regarded the best too, and he's maybe not the best, but there's like a wee handful of people that talk about like Mog. People mention Mad Hat. People mention Loki. There's more. I can't even. I can remember going to what was it called? I can't even mind what it was called. But Loki did like workshops and stuff. And like, because I've always wrote, like, never like to actually perform or nothing, but I've always wrote to get feelings out. Do you know what I mean? Like to talk about almost how I'm doing, but just in that. And I went to do this thing that Loki had done, and that GBH and all that was on the course at the time. Right, too, he's sound as well. But just obviously I was still like using and stuff, and it was just all guys, and it was like only Lassie in it, and I think I went to a couple of them and then didn't go back. So it was like. And then obviously... GBH was really good friends with Mog, eh? They were in a wee group and stuff. Is that not right? GBH and... I don't know. I think... No, it was the Being. Were you thinking of the Being? Like, it was Loki and Mog and Mog did stuff with the Being. He was never totally a Being member though, was he? No, I don't know. No, and GBH and Mog
And I
when you used
think
to
another
search
guy did
MOG on
something.
YouTube, you used to. That's how I get into gasp and stuff, early gasp stuff
Aye.
and that, because that was what came up. Was
If you
being
search
stuff.
Scottish rap, Gasp just comes up, I put on like YouTube when I'm doing stuff, playing some tunes, and I'll just pick a Scottish artist or whatever, and within 2 or 3 tunes later, it's just dominated by Gasp, But I love that Girl Called Glasgow track, every time that comes on. And it's funny, like, I listen to Gasp stuff, and not against Gasp, I'm not like searching for Gasp, he just keeps coming on, Word, Gasp, Loki, and Mad Hat. And, aye. Cool. So we're still sort of. So what does it mean? How does it make you feel doing the work you do, and if you can see you're helping others? And actually, your events that you do is all adult. You were saying about kids, but you're doing events for adults to enjoy themselves and that are going through recovery as well.
Aye. So early recovery. It used to be this. What I do now used to sit within one of the recovery communities in Glasgow. So the recovery communities in Glasgow are split into like 3 areas, like north east, north west, and south. And it used to sit with the north west, and it was called AFIT. And I kind of got involved volunteering with that.
I think I saw you was posting stuff with that.
Aye, because it was meant to be like an East Coast, West Coast thing, and Word and that was meant to come through and stuff. We did workshops and that, but I think something happened and Word couldn't make it through that time. But so like, because of the homegrown stuff that I'd done, people came and did workshops and came and performed, and the young Jaylee and Jamie and Mog came through, Simmons did stuff. So like loads. Blasphemy Sinner was DJing for us one time. So like everybody.
One of my best mates.
Brilliant man. And
seen him just at my 40th birthday just a few weeks ago there. Hadn't seen him in a good couple of years. So it's good.
So everybody kind of, because of the previous few years where I had been out in amongst the gigs and just taking pictures and stuff, and people were happy to come along and do stuff. So that kind of happened, and then like every year since I've got clean, I've had like a gig. So like I did it like a homegrown one, but then butter became a thing. So then Steg would let me do butter at the Christmas one, because that would be my clean time.
His butter night looked good. I'd never went through, but it's because I quite often work on a Sunday, my wee part-time job I have, and he had it on a Saturday night, and I'd always be like, if I go through, I'm going to be trashed for the Sunday morning. So I think if he gets it, he's going to get going again, isn't he? I think so, he is. So I'll try and go through to it, but
So through all that,
what you said about West Coast, East Coast vs West Coast thing, I was chatting to Word and his one saying I don't think that would go too well now, because like you've got like whacks of rappers and that coming out of the West Coast, and there's a small amount coming out of the East Coast now. Like we feel like there's tons of names, and 10 years ago when Mad Hat was really active, Wardy Burns was about, Jinx was still doing stuff. There was Perfect Practice, and there was me doing stuff, and I say Word, and I said what, but there was even more, and there's like the guys like Elliot McNaughton, Eloquent, and there seemed to be quite a lot going on in Edinburgh, and it seems like in the last 10 years, I think folk are still doing stuff. Sorry, I'm leaving out ST as well. He was doing stuff, and U-Turn. But everybody seems to have quietened down. ST still brings out things here and there too, which is cool. He's never slowed down really, but I know he runs the pipe shop as well, so he's got a lot going on down in Leith.
Right.
But it's like, what's happened to the East Coast? I feel like I need to go out there with a board recruiting young guys and girls.
That's it.
And that's another thing, like in Glasgow you start to get quite a lot of female artists, and still in Edinburgh there's not really. I don't know if there's a female rapper. No, there's
It's Nova through here, Nova Scotia.
I know that name.
I think she's through this way. I don't know. I'm not 100%, but.
And then Astronaut, she's actually trans now, isn't she?
He does his. Well,
I totally misgendered there.
You did.
Aye. Sorry.
I'm interviewing him on Monday.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
For the Meat Recovery Festival. So
I met him a couple of times at wee shop things and stuff where folk were rapping and that, and I got invited down, and I just thought, why no? It was a weeknight. I drove down, jumped on the mic and that, and it was Evil and his mate were filming stuff and that, and they were like, come down man, come down. It's like, I sound like come down. It was actually really good, Cool. So, keeping working and helping recovery with other people, is that something you think you're going to keep doing for a while?
I'd never wanted to work in recovery. Never wanted to work in it. I did the up-day programme, did volunteer training, and it was just something that I never wanted to go into, but this opportunity came up. So like the thing that I used to volunteer with, the AFIT stuff, the people that fund it wanted it to be a citywide thing in Glasgow, rather than just sitting with one of the communities. So they approached the Scottish Recovery Consortium, who took it on, but because they're a national organisation, although the bulk of my work's in Glasgow, it's like outside Glasgow as well. So we like, before the recovery walk was in Perth last year, so the night before we did a gig, and MOG came up and ran a marathon, and Astronaut all performed.
Another female, aye.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, there's quite a lot of them.
Well, that was it. The first time I seen, because as I say, I'd.
Oh, there was a ladies' night sort of thing once.
We
I
did
remember.
We did that. We did International Women's Day at Butter, and it was like Empress and all that.
Aye, that was cool. I seen that online and thought that's quality.
Yeah.
Really, like women dominating that night.
So that was it. Like the first time I'd heard. So I had just left rehab, and I think I was like 60 days clean, and I went to a gig. It was meant to be, who was it meant to be? Skinny Man, but Skinny Man didn't. Something happened, and he wasn't there, and Shady was performing at it.
All right.
So she opened up.
Oh, aye, right. She was at it.
Aye. I think it ended up Steg the Dump that was there.
Oh, right.
That was who it was that ended up there that night.
He's been doing stuff for ages too. Obviously, Skinny Man has, but
aye. I think there was like.
We met Skinny Man, supported him and stuff. I can't even remember. I'm terrible with dates. Me and Mad Tat laugh. He knows like exactly when it was, where it was, the conversation we had going in. Like, I can't even mind like. We supported Skinny Man, something happened, because I remember chilling with him afterwards. and we're sitting there with Skinny Man, and me and Matt, I remember Skinny Man being a bit like, oh, what, you taking the piss? And we're like, no. Well, we're sitting and Mad Tat's going, you want another drink, blood? And I'm going, and I'm like, yes, blood.
Yeah, fam.
Get one for the man, them. And then eventually Skinny Man's just, he must have been listening to us, and he's going, do you boys say that too? You say blood and the man them and everything. And we're like, we'd had a bit of drink, we're like, no mate, we're just being wide, eh? And he's like, alright, no, we're not taking the piss, but we're just like, we do it for fun, eh? And then it was a bit like, oh shit.
Now it's a thing.
I know,
I'm
eh?
blaming you.
I know, eh? Okay, we done it for fun, eh? Now folk are literally rapping about man don't like that.
Don't get me started.
I feel like you don't need to. I can understand though. It's weird because I get a dilemma, but we never done any of that in our raps. We've done it for fun chatting. And in America though, there is like West Coast slang got adopted on the East Coast and that, and Southern artists used some West Coast slang, and they all adopted stuff. So sometimes I do go, I suppose, why can a Scottish guy not adapt Southern English slang? They did it in America. And then I start getting really deep and going, like, you know, the fact people go, yeah man, alright man, how you doing man? That came from America, you know, people said man in America, hey man, and we all adapted saying, alright man, how you doing? So it's like, it's cause it's the generation now where we're like, you can't say blood or the man them, what are you talking about? But maybe in 10, 15 years from 20 years from now, everybody will be saying it. Like, mind you, the kids walk down the street and that with their wee like phones on blast, and they're just rocking southern like London grime and drill and that, and I feel like stopping them and going, give me your phone. Right, there's some...
Starting to go out with CDs again.
Aye. There's some Sherlock. Check Sherlock out. He's way better than them. Right. There's Zesh and there's Shogun. Right, away and study them. See you later.
There will be a test.
Aye. And I love a lot of... I want to get some of these guys on as well. Sort of the... Not newer, they've been doing it for a while, like, but some of the bigger names in Glasgow that are sort of respected, I mean, MOG was around before a lot of them. And then a lot Sherlock and all this lot came a bit after, but I put them still at the same sort of level as MOG. Like I don't know. Can't claim that they've seen MOG and been influenced by him. I don't know. Possibly, but
Maybe.
Aye.
But they keep it. it's like when somebody's rapping and you feel like they mean what they're saying. That's what I connect with. Do you know what I mean? When somebody's being like real and authentic, it's like when you're hearing wee guys that you know are for wee tunes and stuff rapping about drive-by shootings, and I just can't.
Aye, that's something we never did. Was like we were aware. We started that young. There was only like small amount of folk in Edinburgh doing it. Like Jinx was still active really with Scotland Yard. They were still doing gigs and that's crazy to think. And like ST popped up around the same time as I say. We did our first gig and he came to it. So I don't know if he'd done a gig since at that point, but he was learning, he was doing rap and came to the gig, and so there's hardly anybody. But we were like, there was this sort of dilemma. We were like, we don't want to be like trying to sound like Americans talking about trying to. I love Tupac and I love Ice Cube and I love all that, but we can't be talking about like the hood and that and in those words like and your homies and shit, and it was like, so that's how we almost came up with Dark Rumours. But we also loved Necro. You know Necro? And we loved like a lot of that sort of stuff. I'm forgetting a lot of the names. A lot of folk on his label, and it was all like just crazy like violent rap. And we started adapting like horror movies and that to tunes, and it gave us a content though that we could rap about without sounding like we're copying someone else. So then we were making tunes up called like The Figure of Death, and like there was The Pictures, and it was all just horror movies and that we quoted throughout the tune, and it was just fun, and it was that way. It was like quite authentic, that we weren't copying anyone, but we did get a lot of backlash from folk that didn't like it because they all loved Tribe Called Quest and real chilled out hip hop, and then we're jumping on. One of our biggest tunes was Blood, Guts, Sweat and Tears, and the hook was just blood, guts, sweat and tears. Kind of, you jumped on stage, the other guy had just been on doing some chilled out mellow hip hop where the guy's scratching, and we got a lot blood, guts, sweat and tears. It worked because we ended up getting recognised a bit in that. How are we doing for time? Still got a wee bit of time on this part. So, what else do you see trying to get into with recovery stuff? Is there other things you'd like to do? Because you run the events.
So that's... Is
this something you want to concentrate doing recovery stuff for a while now, or keeping helping people? Or?
What it is like? So like when I started getting about the hip hop gigs and stuff, it was like because like my biggest thing was if I stopped taking drugs, the fun was going to be there, because I equated taking drugs with being fun, because that was the way.
You do have fun times on drugs.
You do.
Totally.
I had some great times on drugs.
and the old thing that like even like heroin and drugs like that are good. Like no, not good, but when people try them, they like it. You know. So
that's it.
It's not that you're doing something that I hate that. Why did I do it?
No, it's not first anyway.
It's too good.
Maybe towards the end.
Yeah.
It's like so. It was like, but then like when I was going about the gigs and stuff and just like enjoying life, like but no even feeling like even being with people that were mad with it, but still no like wanting to be mad with it anymore. So it was like being able to do that for other people. Do you know what I mean? Like when we have events, like one of the local rehabs brings people along, so they're still detoxing off drugs, or they've just finished a detox. Do you know what I mean? So it's like they're in that place where I was, that you think that there's no more fun, and then they come along and you come along to a comedy night,
have a good night,
or you come along to a rave and they're up dancing, and do you know what I mean?
And they realise that was really good, and you've probably got people thanking you and that, like what a great night it's been, and
that's what I get. I done it. I know is days like watching people like like they had like some DJs that used to go to the Metro and all that to see performing at one of our raves, and just watching everybody up dancing and stuff like that. It's like, that gives me a wee buzz now. Do you know what I mean?
Do you have? Are you like close enough to people that you help that they can phone you and stuff if they?
I mean, like folk can message me.
Not that you're really acting like a sponsor to them, but
no yet. You
get the odd person.
It's like you're always there for other people. Do you know what I mean? It's like one of the things with 12-step recovery is you put your hand out to other people. Do you know what I mean? And you kind of meet up for coffees or
just
tea,
a word from someone else can point you back in the right direction.
That's it.
Even if I'm trying to stop smoking cigarettes, my missus will keep me. You know, like I might just go buy a pack, you know what I mean? I've had a bad day and that. But you've done so well, that wee bit.
Aye.
And you're like, I know, eh. Don't cave in and go and get them now,
Here's a
eh.
bacon roll.
Aye, you're like, right, okay, I'll go and do this now and see if I get my mind off
Aye.
it. And then if you hadn't had that conversation, you might have just went, I'm just going to go and buy a pack of fags.
And that's how easy it is, do you know what I mean? For people, it's because you do see it all the time. You see people like picking back up and stuff like that, and it's difficult. It's one of the most difficult things in recoveries, like when mates go back out the door or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And
I've got mates, and I wouldn't want to mention names, and I wouldn't even want them to realise I'm kind of talking about them, because I feel like it's not your place to talk about folk. But I had a mate that I went to school with, and we all through high school, so from like pals from about 12, and then we were still pals till we were at least 22, so say 10 years, up to like 25. Between 22 25 we were still pals, but by about like when he was maybe around 20, he started getting into more drugs, eh? Everybody liked a wee smoke and smoking weed and that, and he started going on other things, and it was like, I remember going up one afternoon, and him and his brother are there, and I'm just sitting down and just chatting and that, and his brother gets tinfoil out, eh? And I'm like, what are you doing? And he was like, I've just started doing it for Ken, it's just a laugh and that. I was like, I wouldn't be touching that, man. And I was doing that whole thing, like, and even his brother's going like, aye, like, what are you doing that for? But even his brother, like, a few years later ended up hooked on it, and both of them, I think, aye. Oh well, we can end that part if you want, unless there was anything else sort of like, there's nothing else really in that, I would say, what pushed you in the way of wanting to do recovery work and helping other people and running these events.
No, that's it. It's like, so like the job came up, I think we had just went into lockdown. We just went into the first lockdown, so it was like everything else, like all the homegrown stuff that I'd been doing and going to gigs and taking pictures and all that stopped, so it was like that limbo. And the job came up, and I thought, right,
that must have been a nightmare for you as well, with the lockdown and all that, while you're still going through.
I still get the odd message to go, like cryptic and that, was shooting videos, and I'd go out and take some like behind the scenes pictures while he's shooting the videos with, and so I went for the job. All the stuff that I'd done up to then, obviously in that time too, I'd started the Making Recovery Visible radio show at Sunnygovan, and that was just through like, I was going about Sunnygovan for years in active addiction, and I'd never heard of recovery, so it was like I went and did a radio production course that Sunnygovan was doing and got offered a show, and I was like, well, that 12-step thing again about being of service, do you know what I mean? It's like, right, well, why don't we like do a wee programme about recovery, do you know what I mean?
You've had a lot of good things come your way to help you, like the opportunities with the radio and things, and it's
just
keeping you
taking
busy.
that stuff, like before, like I had all sorts of mental health diagnosis before, like agoraphobia and all that. I wouldn't go out, but it was how I felt and how I was thinking, do you know what I mean? But you get all these mental health diagnoses, and then you get medication to deal with them, and then you just abuse the medication because you're already addicted to drugs, do you know what I mean? So
a lot of times the meds they'll help you, but there's also bad sides to them all. I know lots of folk that have been through meds as well, and they have to keep trying different ones because it makes them feel better for a bit, and then they start getting funny side effects a bit later than that. And
then you take something else to deal with the side effect, and it's just that ongoing circle.
So then you've got a lot of people that are having problems, and they don't want the meds because they're scared of what it's going to do to them.
Yeah.
And
it's...
Right, well, we'll move on for that then. We'll have our second wee break with another track that Donna's chose. Donna obviously doesn't make music, so for artists or artist guests that come on that don't make music and stuff, they can pick music, and it's also unsigned bands and artists and stuff. So Donna will be picking this next track, and all the details will be on the screen. Perfect.
Started off as an innocent
this and did my best to make the losers club, and ended up a criminal heavily into booze and drugs. But now I've got way ahead in myself. My story starts in southern Glasgow. I'll do my best to censor the gory parts. As far back as I remember in 80 something, watching Brady Bunch and hating the way my wee brain would function, I was lost. I hated life, I hated school. My only saving grace is mammy was too bright to raise a fool. Bless her heart and soul. She let my father go and raised 3 weans alone in a place that couldn't be dark or no. Shit was raw and he fucking joke. I'm for the trenches. 6-year-old and cunts are stabbing, shagging, coke and spraying benches. Had to raise my defences. A childhood of pressure, every imagine you'd imagine. All the food drips in Glasgow, it was better when gangs police the streets instead of smack. But once again I find myself getting off a beaten track. Let's get back to having blades in my face at the age of 7. Hating women due to rape in a kitchen at age 11. Got offered smack at 12, knocked it back just as well. At 15 my mate stabbed me and he laughed as I fell. I was raised in hell and all I wanted was a way out, a safe route to stake out my claim, display my brave mouth and shine. Leave the fucking poison behind. Instead of acting out my anger I would voice it through rhyme. Truth be told, I was raised in hell. Sometimes I want to get a gun and cocaine myself, but I take comfort in the beauty of rhyme and hip hop. Sometimes it's all it gets, I cut through the night and shit talk. Truth be told, I was raised in hell. Sometimes I want to get a gun and cocaine myself, but I take comfort in the beauty of rhyme and hip hop. It's the only thing that saved my life, no shit talk. I walk on hot cold, mod rock and roll, though I don't sing as such. Marched into the move ahead with both my middle fingers up, screaming I don't give a fuck. Everybody's born to die, I'll be living life the way I want under a Scottish sky. I went from fortified to tonic, soap to super skunk. They can't say now you'll never be nothing to all you're pure as fuck. It's because of the music and all the troops I've met. Now when I look back my life's good with only a few regrets. I'm on the road to success, I'm exercising my demons. I'm finally in the losers club and I'm releasing my feelings. Even though I see a ton of ignorance, the only thing that keeps my faith in this world is innocence. Save the children, you could bang stunners and make a million. Shoot to fame, perform the greatest show ever. Well, cunts are filming, but it's nothing unless you're devoting your time and energy to remedy your ranks. Let the impressionable learn for you, here's the point. I've seen enough abuse to be mad, but still I'd never contemplate using this music for bad. It's no a source of hate, it's a source of great, a source of escape, a source of fate, so use its force to create. The next generation are wasting time on confrontation. Everybody's raging, placing their status on innovation. They're too busy hating, I see the genre changing face, but I swear to God I'll never let them rob my saving grace. Truth be told, I was raised in hell. Sometimes I want to get a gun and cocaine myself, but I take comfort in the beauty of rhyme and hip hop. Sometimes it's all it gets, I cut through the night and shit talk. Truth be told, I was raised in hell. Sometimes I want to get a gun and cocaine myself, but I take comfort in the beauty of rhyme and hip hop. It's the only thing that saved my life, no shit talk.
Right, so we're back. That was another track there. I hope you enjoyed it. Chosen by Donna. The details should all be on the screen if it's available or not, and track names and Google things as well. You'll probably find things available and blah blah blah.
That's how you find other things as well.
That's it, just Google. A lot of folk have said to me you should put links down in the description for people for things, but when you watch this, surely you just hear someone telling you what they do. If you Google it, you'll find it, eh? I think
these all the work for you. Come on.
I think all these links and that are kind of pointless nowadays, eh? Like, just go on there and type the name of what you're looking for and it comes up, eh? So we're on the last part, and it's it's basically based on like your accomplishments, things you're sort of working on now, things you've got planned, and obviously starting with your plans for the future and stuff, what you would hope for yourself, and even things you're doing. But starting off probably like your accomplishments, which is massively that you're still in recovery and succeeding, eh? Yeah. That's a massive one.
That's 5 years, so that's been the longest since I was 16 that I've been off substances. First time I've ever been completely abstinent for that kind of age.
Do you still speak to your mum and that?
Yeah.
Aye. How do they feel about how you are now? Are they dead happy?
Aye. My son's 21 now. He's been through a lot, obviously, with me and my life, but we're rebuilding relationship and stuff too. So all that stuff, and it takes time. Do you know what I mean?
It's a shame it takes so long, but it's good where you are now, and I bet they're all dead happy.
And that's it. It's a journey. Do you know what I mean? Like the past 5 years, I've done so much that I'd never have thought I would have done. I would never have thought I would have did a live radio show. I would have never have thought that I mean, that's the first time I've worked in my life. I've always been on the sick. Do you know what I mean? So this is like the first time I've ever worked. Just even putting on gigs, being pals now with people that I first was listening to their tunes in Active Addiction, like that's all amazing to me. So it's been difficult because I've not really planned any of that to happen the way it's happened. It's just different opportunities have arisen and I've taken them, and do you know what I mean? I just keep trying to do my best.
A wee bit of both. I like a lot of stuff you see on social media these days from like, not famous people, but like inspiring people saying like, you make your future. There's a lot of this stuff going on now, teaching people you make your future. And some people come in bad backgrounds and hard times, but you are able, like, if you put your mind to it. I don't believe it's always 100% true. Some things are so hard it holds people back, eh?
Yeah, but I think if you're consistent with something, if you want to do something and you're consistent with it,
sometimes it can be a real struggle, but it is possible, eh?
Aye.
And then, what was the other thing I was just thinking there? And the other part, like, do you feel a bit of luck involved in it as well? Like, meeting people and...
There's like, so again, to touch on the 12-step stuff, because it's a massive part of my life, so that's like a spiritual journey you're on in the 12-step programme. So there's like higher power stuff in that, and some people choose to call it a god. I choose to look at it as the universe conspires for my good, as long as I'm doing my best, and if I'm living to the best of my ability a principled life, the universe is going to...
A bit like karma.
Yeah, so like, and when I was in that negative place, I always thought the world was against me, and now my thinking's changed, that if I'm doing my best and I'm living by these principles, that only the best's going to happen for me. Only whatever for my greatest good's going to happen if I do my best and I live that way. Do you know what I mean?
It's like with these podcasts, I've felt like I want to do this. I'm interested in it. It's something I enjoy. That's all I always do. It's like music and stuff. It's like I've got to enjoy it, and then I also want it to be successful. And it's not going too bad. It's technically, I've had the page up for just like Christmas time, but I wasn't active. And I was looking back the other day, telling someone, one of my mates, saying it's only been active for 3 weeks. 3 weeks this has been going, and my views are like 100 odd views on a podcast and that. I'm like, it's only 3 weeks.
Right.
So I'm thinking, and I feel like I'm putting effort into it, and I'm getting as many filmed as, and if I feel like if I make these, put the effort in and do everything properly, it has to succeed to a certain level, surely.
It's just the consistency stuff, isn't it? It's just keeping at something. If you're enjoying it and you're getting something out of it and you keep at it, then that's...
And I'm quite I'm interested in religion and spiritualism and all that, and the universe. I've watched tons of stuff on YouTube over the years and that, and I'm the same. I feel like sometimes you do something, and in the back of my mind I feel like, is that a bit of karma where the world, like the universe or the world or something's going, you know what, you've been trying your best at that, so karma's going to give you a break. You know, I feel sometimes like, and I'm self-employed too, doing signage, and I sometimes don't have much work on, and I have a wee panic that, man, I've got no work on, what am I going to do? And I go out and make an effort and do some flyering of that, and I feel like I'm walking about all day handing flyers out, and then the next day the phone like doesn't stop ringing, and I feel like that's because I made an effort, you know, and karma's saying, he made an effort, he deserves something.
And you get what you attract, what you put out, you attract. So if you're being like, I was always kind of negative and viewed everything as hostile, and that was the way I ended up. But now it is believing that thing that your higher self, if there is like some kind of higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, the universe, whatever kind of laws of physics make us up, if you're putting out positive stuff, you're going to get positive stuff. And it was like when I first got into recovery, so like, you hear in fellowships like a life beyond your wildest dreams. So if you live by these principles, you get like a really good life, and that's. But then through that, I kind of get introduced to the Buddhism Dharma, which is living your life by spiritual principles to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. And then
Aye.
I started looking at Gnosticism, and it's that spiritual journey, and that's part of the 12 steps, your 11 steps, like when you start looking into all that, and that's what I've kind of went on, and it shows in my life, do you know what I mean? It's like for just over 6 years ago, just over 5 years ago, I was in a hostel homeless. I was using, I didn't want to use anymore, like my mum and dad had gave up on me, my son didn't speak to me, to 5 years later, I'm in my own house, my son comes up and visits me, I'm working, I pay my bills, I'm responsible that way, and I get now to help other people with that experience and do something I love. Do you know what I mean?
And it's all been your own actions, really. You've had
you
support,
need to
you
put
needed
effort
here and
in.
there.
You need to put effort in, and you need to, like, even when you don't want to, because my sometimes my first instinct, because like the whole world's set up to take us away from our spiritual self. I believe now that the whole world, do you know what I mean? Consumerism, internet especially, it's always that seeking something outside yourself. Do you know what I mean? And never living in the moment. We're always stuck to our phones, we're always watching a TV programme, we just don't live in the moment anymore. And it's like, so the whole world's set up to take us away from our spiritual selves, and it's about getting, for me, it's about getting back to that.
I remember hearing something about God, I lost exactly what I'm paying attention to you so much. I keep thinking of stuff and going, I keep going off because I'm listening to what you're saying. Oh God, it's gone. It was there. What did? Oh, nah, it doesn't matter.
But it's all those things that are made to feed different egos. Do you know what I mean? And even spiritualism now is set up to feed an ego. Do you know what I mean?
What it was. So it was like all the material things. I remember when I was quite young, something on the TV or something somewhere saying, or someone said to me, I don't know what it was, but it always sunk in that, like, you're born and then you die, and all the stuff that happens in between and all the things you accumulate don't matter. All the things you buy and things you want and things you even do with your life. Like, technically, like, it's quite a weird one, but it doesn't really matter because you're just born, it's just an experience, and then you die. And people that, I say, work mad amounts, like, don't get to see their families much because they travel a lot for their work and things like that. If they're enjoying it, then that's cool, but if they're not enjoying it, you're doing it for sort of material reasons, and you're sort of wasting your life. So so I'm self-employed, and I don't have any dreams of having a high street shop or doing any of that. I'm just happy making money to bring in to pay my bills and be able to have money to spend.
And to be able to podcast and make music.
That's
brilliant. Do you know what I mean?
I think if I had and I do my wee part-time job as well, so that just brings a bit of, I could focus more on that and try and build it as a big business, and I don't want that, the headaches, employing people, and much rather just take a wee part-time job for extra cash, which I'm not allowed to discuss the supermarket I work for. You're told, you're warned when you get a job, you cannot talk about the supermarket you work for online or anywhere. Weird, Like,
other supermarkets are available.
I know, So I deliver for a supermarket twice a week. I think I'm allowed to say that. A couple of the boys will maybe watch the video too, so they'll probably be laughing at that. Cool. So, I mean, obviously you've accomplished what you have with your recovery, and I mean, how long do you think your recovery could still be quite a struggle for? Do you? I don't know much about that sort of stuff. Could this go on for another 5 years where you're still?
I don't struggle with it anymore. I don't like. I can.
So it's not really a struggle.
No, I mean, I've accepted that I can't use any kind of substance successfully. Do you know what I mean?
That's quite good in 5 years.
That came quite early on. Do you know what I mean?
So were you a year in and you were feeling pretty much like this is going well?
Aye. For then I could go. I mean, even before that, I could go to gigs and no feel like I wanted to partake in what everybody else was doing. Because it's like the definition of addiction in 12-step stuff is, am I powerless over it? Which means if I take something, can I stop taking it? And does it make my life unmanageable? So anytime I smoked hash, I smoked from night to day. I spent all my money on it. I can't do that successfully. Heroin speaks for itself. Cocaine, same. I got criminal injuries for what happened, and it all went on cocaine and hash. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Aye.
so no matter what substance I use, I kick the arse at it. So
And
it's like
drinking as well.
drinking always made me ill. So as soon as I found drugs, drink wasn't a thing for
Aye,
me. Do
aye.
you know what I mean? So it always made me really no well.
Aye.
So
But would you go mad on the drink if you started drinking?
aye,
Aye,
or
aye.
anything I'd take to excess, I'd
Aye.
take to oblivion, and now I've got a life that I don't want to escape for, basically. Do you know what I mean? Like, all that was to escape for how I felt, and how I thought then, and now I've got a life that I don't wish to escape, so I
Aye.
don't.
Aye. I often think I struggle with drinking, not like I've got a problem with it, but I find I like it too much, and I often think I have breaks all the time, so it shows that I've not really got a problem with it,
Aye.
because I constantly go, right, I'm not going to drink this week, I'm just going to not have a drink all week, and I do it fine. The first night, if I've been drinking like every night for say a week or so, and I've been drinking every night, the first night I'm like, I was enjoying the beers. I kind of go, and I can feel it. I'm like, that's weird, like I could really do a beer. And then like a night later or two, I'm just like, cool, that's fine. So I know that it's okay that way, but it annoys me. So then I get back in the swing. My missus tells me off, you've been drinking every night, I'm like, aye, but it's only a couple of cans or a few wee cans and that. And it's like, I know, but you shouldn't need to drink every night. I'm like, I know, aye. And so then I'll have another big break and be like saying to her, I've no drank for coming up 2 weeks now. Like,
I deserve one now.
aye, and she's like, aye, no, you've done really good. And then like a few days later, I go and get a box of beers, and I'm like, I'm just treating myself, not drank for 2 weeks. All right, aye. And then she'll notice, you've now been drinking for another 2 weeks every night since you stopped for 2 weeks. I'm like, I know. So I have this dilemma in my head where I'm like, I think I would quite, it's hard, you'll totally understand this, I think I would quite like just being teetotal and not drinking, because when I don't drink I feel quite happy, and then I just go, oh, the sun's shining and I've had a good day, I'm going to have a few beers, and that starts the whole chain again. The next day it's like, still beers left, I'll finish then, and then it's like, oh, they're back into having beers every night again. So I often go, but then I go, I don't know if I could handle being teetotal, because like it sounds boring to me, you know, and you'll totally understand that, Aye.
That's what's weird. It's like, see, when you're asking people to perform, or DJs, or especially the people when they think about a sober rave, and they think everybody's just going to be there stunning about and stuff, and it's like, there's videos online that are just everybody bouncing away, do you know what I mean? And it's
Aye.
and it's just about having that. It's like we're like conditioned to, you need to be mad with it, or have a drink to
Aye.
have a good time, and it's conditioned for a young age, do you know what I
Aye,
mean? And
aye.
that's something that I don't think it was kind of part of my job to begin with, but it's becoming kind of more what it's about, is like challenging the ideas of stigma and social conditioning, that you can go out and have a good time like without getting mad with it.
Aye. Well, my older sister, she's always been quite sensible, and never had any issues with anything like that, really. And I remember chatting to her, and she was going to something, and she was driving, and she'd been at something, and she was like, oh no, I drove. I was like, oh, you were driving, you're not drinking? She's like, no. And I think she was just like, I don't need to have a drink to have a good time. And that's because she's always been like that, and she's never even felt like she has to have a drink. So she's just now older than me now, and she's still like, I can go out and go to a party or an event, have a really good time, and just drink like soft drinks or something. It's like, and to me that's like, God, that sounds boring. But then I'm thinking, it's probably, well, everybody shows you it's not, you know, and that's the whole sort of struggle with it. And
That's it.
you start adding up, I'm actually just putting this sort of chemically liquid in my mouth to make me feel like that. But once you don't put that liquid in your mouth anymore, you start feeling like that anyway.
Yeah, that's it. And you're having the authentic experience there. It's not like a substance-induced experience.
Aye. And I know that I've went to gigs in the past, and I've been working in the morning, so I've went, right, I'm not drinking, I'll drive, and that way I can't drink, so I take the car. And then the next morning, I've been up till 3 in the morning, the club ended and the gig was amazing, and I did feel the whole night kind of like I wasn't my usual mad self, but that's because I wasn't absolutely mad. But the next morning I've only had 3-4 hours sleep, and I wake up and I'm not that rough. I'm like, I'm a bit tired, like, but because I wasn't drinking, I'm all right and I can still function. Eh? If I'd been drinking, I'd have been phoning my work in and say I'm not coming in. Aye, so I know you'd done stuff recently, like with the BBC. What was that all about? You want to tell a bit?
So it was.
I've not followed into it. I've been so busy with this, but I noticed you were posting up stuff for you.
It was a programme called From the Margins, Disclosure. It was on BBC on Monday night, and myself and one of the lassies that volunteer, she had sent me a video a few weeks ago, her dancing in the street. She'd been a bit done, and she was going to one of the recovery cafes, and she sent me this video, and it went a wee bit viral, and through that, the lassie that, I don't know if you know Roberta Child, she's like an old school singer, so she had got tunes with Trevor Riley, the DJ.
Aye.
So it was one of her tunes she was dancing to, and then she came and performed at International Women's Day and stuff for us through seeing the video. But the BBC wanted Nikki to do that for the programme. So the programme is about where services are failing people and falling short for people. But they wanted to end it on something kind of positive. So they interviewed us. But I think the wee clip that went out to promote it was kind of longer than the bit that we had in the programme, because it was more about what wasn't working in the programme. But the response for that, it's like just messages for people, and people's family reaching out for support for them, and people wanting to know more about the events, people offering their services for events.
Inspiring for people and that.
And just other places wanting to get involved, to collaborate in projects, which is quite exciting, especially one of them. I'll not put it out there yet, but it's like, it's like mad. And that's kind of like one of the tunes I picked was Scars, like CCTV, so it's like about using your scars to like be not an example, because I hate putting myself out as an example for anything, do you know what I mean, but just to show that life can be different, do you know what I mean, when people are in that dark place, but also that if you follow something that you're passionate about and you're just consistent with it, that life can totally change and things can happen, do you know what I mean, and it's like, if you're just real and authentic, because that's all I've got, it's my story, all I've got is who I am. I don't try to be something I'm not or anything like that, do you know what I mean? It's just that I'm just me. You get me the way I am, and like I just keep ploughing on, and that's like I did that with Karen and that, spoke to them, and that's kind of what I spoke about, was like the journey through it.
You're a dead positive person. Were you always positive even in your younger days? No.
When I was younger, I wasn't like mad positive.
You're quite you're polite and friendly, eh? Kind of like, were you always like that, or?
I was like in my younger years until I started running the streets.
And then when you were going,
but through that addiction,
mad time, your whole attitude changed.
Yeah, totally negative, totally self-centered, totally hostile, violent,
threatening, and that.
Because that's the way I viewed the world.
You were like, your result was, I'll get thingy on you, can hack in people and all that sort of stuff.
I was just, I wasn't a nice person. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't a nice person, but now realising that I know what I've done. What I've been through doesn't define me. What I've done doesn't define me. It's what I do now, the day that defines me. Do you know what I mean? Totally. And I try my best. That's.
I mean, when I was in my trouble, sometimes I even look back on the stupid shit I done and think like, I'm not even. I don't even want to talk about some of the stuff I got up to. Yeah. It's not terrible, but it's just like not cool. Not stuff I'd want my daughter to know and things like that. You know, and you feel like. But I don't feel like I'm a terrible person. I feel like I was just in the wrong circles and influenced by the wrong things. Made bad
decisions.
And I was young.
At the time.
Aye.
And you learn from it, and
But I mean, I'm 40 now, and I'd pretty much started to behave. Music probably was a massive thing. Doing gigs and all that, getting really into the music. So by the time I was like 25, I was like I am now. I was just chilled, and I wasn't interested in nonsense. And if fights break out, when I was younger, if a fight broke out of that, it would be exciting. Aye. And then now, for the last 15 years at least or longer, if a fight breaks out, I'm the guy that's like, come on, like, just leave it. Look, he didn't mean it. And I'm like that guy, like, what is the point of this? And I'm not in, and I quite often laugh at people's fronts when people have a front and they're acting too tough. It's like, you don't need to act like that, man. You can be
just
cool.
Be who you are.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you're sort of focused on, and plans for the future sort of thing, or any ideas you've got that you're wanting to do, or any new events or anything you can?
So we're going to be doing some workshops. Because creativity's been a big part of my recovery, I'd like to extend that opportunity to other people. I was lucky enough that I could come about hip hop gigs and do it that way. But some people either maybe don't want to be about substance use gigs, or just haven't got the confidence to go out and do it. Do you know what I mean? Because that was a big part of me building up confidence and self-esteem, was going out and taking pictures at gigs and people liking the pictures and using the pictures, and so that helped me. Do you know what I mean? As much as taking pictures for gigs was.
So you're thinking of teaching other people using cameras and doing stuff like that.
We did photography ones there, but we're going to do We're partnering with Sonny Govan to do DJ workshops.
Cool.
That was part of the reason I did them, was so that I could encourage other people to do them. And total hats off, respect to DJs. It's a lot harder than it looks.
I saw you post one of the guys that were on the workshop. He actually did a set.
He
recently.
did a set. So that's the kind of hope that people will come, do the workshops, and then they'll be able to DJ at the freed up events.
Was that him just doing his first DJ set? After learning everything. It's cool,
Aye. So that, and we're doing comedy, because we do a regular comedy night now, so we do a monthly comedy night.
Cool.
So we do that in partnership with Mikey Motion, who's...
And is that actual comedians you get in?
Yeah. So Mikey runs a weekly comedy night in Glasgow, just a regular night, and I go along there and take pictures for him and find what comedians I think would work with our crowd, because it's can be quite intimidating for any performer, because it's usually if people are in having a drink, they're having a drink anyway, whatever's going on, they do you know what I mean? But this crowd's coming out to be entertained, and they're no mad with it, so it's
mad,
it's quite
mad for the actual performer, the comedian, and that.
So it is quite.
It's that old thing, if everybody's just bevied up, they'll laugh at almost anything.
You've got a pure sober crowd, but it's been good. We've had some really good comedians and stuff come and do it. Next weekend, the Ducks, CCTV, a boy 5-0 that does the premeditated part of our podcast.
So
he's performing.
I've seen his podcast. I watched something. I seen Mog
on
it. I seen Mog on it. That's what it was.
So astronaut.
And Lewis Finlay.
Aye. So they're all performing for us next week. So, and we've got the Recovery Festival coming up. So that's Recovery Connect. So 2019 we had the first one. Last year it got rained off. There was freak rainstorm, and everything nearly got flooded last year, because it's outside in Queen's Park Arena in Glasgow.
Right.
So we're doing that again this year, so fingers crossed for the weather, because it's in May instead of August.
That's a battle in Scotland, outdoor events. Hope it doesn't rain.
Yeah. And just apart from that, just see what happens. As I say, some organisations have been in touch through the programme. It was at Monday, see what comes of that. And just plough on at it, man.
Cool. Do you actually did you do the workshops doing the DJing and stuff?
I did. So I played a few tunes at the thing I was talking about with the Govan Music Festival.
Cool.
You're
just learning how to mix in tracks.
Yep. It was a Scottish hip hop set I had to perform, but we ended up running out of time, so I just played a few dance tunes.
Cool. So we're probably just about there then, That's us pretty much done, I think. Nothing else for sort of stuff you're focused on, just your new gigs and events and the workshops.
And just keep trying to just be a better person, isn't it, and just do what you love.
Well, I think you're a pretty good person.
Oh, thanks.
I think just keep doing what you're doing,
That's it.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks again for coming on, Donna. I always do a fist bump, and everyone's scared to shake hands now. Not me, I'm not fussed. Well, thanks again, and thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you soon. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so you don't miss out on any upcoming content.